Let me know if we're set, Mimi.
I am set. I am just looking for one of our presenters has not signed on yet, but she's the second presenter. So I think we can continue and I'll just watch for her arrival.
Okay. So if we're all good, I will say good evening. I'd like to call the regular Borough Council meeting of March 8th, 2021 to order. This meeting has been properly advertised in the Home News Tribune of January 13th, 2021, according to Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. Due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held by means of the use of electronic communication equipment, the online conference provided by Zoom.us. May I have a roll call, please?
Council President Farkas?
Here.
Councilman Ligotti?
Here.
Councilwoman Neubauer?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Councilman Peretti?
Here.
And Councilman Zambrana?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Now we will have a moment of silence followed by a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we have approval of the minutes from February 22nd. Do I have a motion?
Move that the minutes be approved as typed.
Second.
Any comments, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, and then next we will have a couple of presentations. We have a new event request process, the reservation of the park and appropriate reviews and recommendations from the Milltown staff, department heads, and then we have this presenters come so that the council can ask questions. So the first presentation will be from the Milltown Idea Group and Gwen Murata. Hi, Gwen.
Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. So I have a presentation prepared. Is it okay to share my screen for that? Or...
Mimi, is that
Yeah,
right?
just let me, I just want to double check that I have it open so that you can do that. Gwen, hold on one sec. Okay, you should be okay now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so my name is Gwen Murata. I'm here on behalf of the Milltown Idea. I'll be presenting our proposal for the Milltown Multicultural Festival. The goal of this event is to represent and recognize the cultural groups of Milltown residents, as well as cultures that may not yet be represented in our town. We've begun reaching out to the Human Resources Committee about partnering for this event and hope to be presenting to them at their next meeting in April, if that's to see if that's a possibility. We really want this to be a fun day for members of the community to come together to celebrate and recognize and learn about different cultures through a wide range of activities, including dance performances, live music, storytelling, cultural discussion groups, book swaps, craft displays, as well as craft activities. We hope to have a final schedule of events by coordinating with members from local cultural groups and resident representatives by the end of March. We'll also be inviting local food trucks to participate, representing a wide palette of tastes and cuisine. We plan to have this event Saturday, May 15th, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Gory Bradford Borough Park. We requested the park from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. in order to include setup and cleanup time. We also have a rain date of Saturday, May 22nd with these same times. Some of the facilities we like to use at the park include the pavilion, where we would place a sound system to use for announcements and as a stage to highlight some of the performances. We'd also like to use the parking lot for small pop-up tents and tables used by cultural groups to ensure a safe flow of movement. We really envision this to be a lot like how farmers markets have conducted themselves throughout the pandemic. If available, we'd also like to use one of the ball fields backing the parking lot where we can set up picnic blankets for people to eat, talk, or watch a demonstration at a socially distanced distance. We want this event to be safe and comfortable for everyone attending. So we'll be implementing proper social distancing and have a COVID-19 safety plan. We like participating organizations that have tents or tables to place these at least 12 feet apart from one another. And we'll have these tents and activity areas arranged in either a U shape or parallel lines with ample room in between to ensure a safe flow of attendees. We'll also section off properly distanced spaces for people to enjoy snacks or drinks. Masks will be mandatory at the event, and we'll also be enforcing a cap on how many people can be at a booth or table or activity area at a certain time. We, the Milltown Idea, will be providing hand sanitizer and extra masks to those that need it, and we'll ensure that both are readily available. We also will encourage everyone to make use of the outdoor space and keep a proper social distance of 6 feet apart. We know that our event application and outline has been received and viewed by the Chief of Police, and we've also received his feedback and understand that this is all pending what state guidelines are like regarding outdoor gatherings come May 15th. So depending what those are like, we have a few different options available. Our first option, and the one we hope to have, is that we'll have the event as described here with social distancing and masks. A second option would be to have a scaled back in-person event, removing smaller group activities and anything that involves shared materials, such as craft activities or book swaps. And lastly, if because of state guidelines, we're not able to have an in-person event, we can scale this back fully to a virtual event. Thank you, and look forward to any questions or comments.
Because this right is going to
Great.
talk about.
Thanks, Gwen. Very good presentation. So as I said at the beginning, this is sort of a new process that the clerk's office, and we've taken previously, people of the groups have gone to the rec department and or the police, and it was sort of disjointed. So now we're going to have a sort of a checklist of do this, do that, and then let the council ask questions, because a lot of times it would be presented to the council with them having no idea of all the other stuff that had gone on previously. So we appreciate you being the first one to.
No, you're not on camera.
Take you to present. So thank you. So now I'll open it up to any of the council members or professionals if they have any questions for you.
One question I have is, do we know when Little League is going to open? Has there been any coordination with the Little League as far as how to plan this and run this and Little League consecutively if they're in their season?
I think I saw from the response from the Chief of Police that was brought up, and that's something we have to take into account as well. If Little League would count as, since it's all with our event, that many people being at the park, whether there's two separate events, it still may be counting as that number of people there might count towards one event. So that's something we'll have to see, I guess. And same with seeing if the ball field is available. I think they will be started by that time. So we're flexible and willing to work with what's available given the time.
Okay. And I guess my only other question would be, how would you handle restroom facilities?
That too, I think we've seen from the head of the Department of Public Works mentioned that the restrooms could be available. And I think we have to just let them know. I guess we'll see what given the pandemic, what it's like at the time, if we'll have those, I guess, available, and we'll have to coordinate with Public Works on that.
Well, there was only one restroom at the park. So
yeah,
if there was a Little League event and your event, that would be too much for one bathroom to handle. So that's really something that we have to kind of consider. Okay. And how to look at that as how to arrange for restroom facilities for many people.
Yeah, we're willing to work with that. I mean, if that's something our group has to take, I don't know the guidelines on getting a porta-john or something like that, but that's something we'd be willing to look into and work with the town for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Quinn, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you. I do have a couple questions for you. Are you taking RSVPs so you know how many people to expect, so you'll know how much hand sanitizer and how many masks and things to have?
Yeah, we're hoping to set this event up through Eventbrite so we can see people registered and see how many people will be coming. And then if we have to cap it off at a certain number of people, we'll be able to do that too. So we'll be able to check, I guess we'll set up a table to see people's Eventbrite registrations.
Okay. And this may be more of a statement than a question, but it concerns me the thought of committee members being charged with having to keep people distanced or apart. Just something to keep in mind. I'm sure that you would politely ask, but I don't know what the next step would be.
Yeah, we're hoping to, through talking and discussion, we'll be able to just mitigate that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Now there was some questioning on if there was a police cost involved with this. I would think you would have to make a formal request if you wanted that waived. If council was to do that for you or not. I'm not sure what the answer to that would be, but the police chief did mention in his letter that there would be an additional police presence needed, and there would be a cost associated with that.
Yes, thank you. We did see that, and given we're a Milltown organization and it's going to be a community event, we would, I guess, if there is a process to put in a formal request for waiving that fee, we would like to consider that. In addition, we did pay the facility use fee already, but that too, I don't know if there'd be a potential to have that waived or refunded. So thank you for.
No problem. I would work with Mimi on if there is a formal request for that fee, if she could figure that out for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Gwen, when you paid the use of facilities, was that with the rec department?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, to go back to Randy's question, doesn't the rec have all of the dates when the fields are being used already?
The park was available for the dates we requested in the presentation. So I know the park, I'm just not sure about the baseball field.
Oh, I see.
Park, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I don't believe the schedule is put, they finished doing the schedule yet.
Okay, got it. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, Gwen, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, and thanks for answering all of our questions. So any follow-up items can be dealt with over the next 2 weeks, and then we will, do the formal consideration. But appreciate you being our first presenter for our new process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have a request for a community garden. I'm not sure if this is a green team, environmental commission, or what, Barbara, but I will introduce Barbara Wright to do her presentation.
Hello. I'm not sure either. We have been discussing having a community garden in green team and environmental commission meetings. I guess it's more of a green team thing.
Okay.
And I'm not a member of the green team, but I've been attending green team meetings to help out as a volunteer, and because community members can attend public meetings. And there's been a lot of discussion for the past year or so about where we could have a community garden and if it was a possibility. So I thought we're better to bring the idea then to the Borough Council to see what you all think of it. And so I've been involved with gardens in Milltown through the schools. About 10 years ago, I received my Master Gardener, certificate, went through the classes through Rutgers. I haven't kept up with it, be honest, because every year you have to do so many hours of education and so many hours of volunteering. And when I did run the gardens for the school, I wasn't a volunteer. So all the time I put into the school gardens couldn't count for me volunteering. So with all my responsibilities of being a teacher and I know the garden responsibilities and everything else, I just let the Master Gardener thing slip. But anyway, I have the education for that. So So I guess you know the benefits of community gardens. I don't have to go over that with you all, but community gardens bring people together in a good working relationship. It builds community spirit it helps with, say, food deserts, but not that we're necessarily a food desert, but with people getting good, nutritious food. We do have a lot of renters in Milltown, or maybe people who have shady yards or yards that aren't good for gardening, where a community garden could be a good place for them to grow some vegetables. And so all of a sudden, one day, I know what happened. The Milltown Public Works took down a lot of trees behind the Historical Society, where I'm the president of the Historical Society, so I'm there quite often. And they took down a lot of trees. There were a lot of trees behind the building and shrubs. And once that was cleared out, I saw this open space and I thought, this could be a good spot for a community garden. It's pretty big. I did draw out a map of it, which I might show a little bit later. And I probably should. And so, there's parking there. It seemed like a good spot because there's parking there. Now that the fire department isn't using that for the fire department, we don't have to worry about using up all the spaces where the firemen will need to come and park should there be an emergency or one of their meetings. The buildings have running water in them, so we could run a hose. We could also do rain barrels off of the houses because they have gutters that would allow us to collect rainwater and just people water that way. So we think that I could be mapped out so that there could be a number, maybe up to about 30 local plots that would be about 9 by 9 or 10 by 10 even, where residents could. What I saw from East Brunswick was the first year you're in, you rent the spot. That's how East Brunswick ran it, they rent the spot. And then just to make sure that the people are committing, if they put a little bit of money out, they're committed to it. And then they're responsible to come and take care of their plot. Now with COVID, the way East Brunswick is running it is they have certain plots. They mapped it out so that you're not there at the same time as the person in the plot next door. They have even numbers and odd numbers, and that's how they manage to keep people a little bit separate.
Do not eat yellow cake, which is composed of
community gardens.
Element.
It beautifies the spot, beautifies the land. The land doesn't look that good right now with all the rubble from where the trees were taken down. It helps the community. Let's see. So anyway, I'm just putting the idea out there and seeing what you think. If there are a number of people who are interested, if the council thinks it's a good idea, then I would say we should put together a committee and start making up, I don't know how we would like to go about this. So I'm here to take some questions. And, I can show the map. Let me see. Mimi, do you have it or should I bring it up?
I have your map. I can share it.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want to describe it?
What's that?
I said, can you see it? And did you want to describe it?
Oh, I don't see it.
We can't see anything yet. Are you sharing your screen, Mimi?
Hold on. Here we go.
Okay, now we can see it. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, so you can see the parking lot, and you kind of know what that is. The annex is the second building on the property. The annex building is 18 feet. You see 6 off of the parking lot. Behind that, there's about 86 feet of property until the tree line. There were a number of trees left after Milltown took down the little corner of shrubs and trees that were there. That is 48 feet from the parking lot to the trees, and I left a little room. I didn't go all the way to the edge of the property. We stopped where the back porch is, so make sure we're in. And then it's 86 feet from where I drew the line. There's 2 86s. The 186 is going from the annex to the back of the property, and then the other 86 is from that tree and to the tree that's sort of near the firehouse barn, the little barn that they kept the fire museum in. And then from the parking lot to that tree was 69 feet. So you can see it's a pretty large area. It's relatively level. It slopes down a little bit towards the back. The area behind the parking lot is all grass. And then the area behind the annex is disturbed soil because that's where Milltown took out trees and shrubs. So, I wrote about this on Facebook and said, is anybody interested? And I have like 12 people who said that they'd be interested in being on a committee or helping out or participating in the garden. And one person said that their concern was, would we have garbage removal? And so that's what I wanted to say. I think the Milltown Public Works has always removed garbage from the museum buildings. If we put out garbage or trash or things, Milltown has always been able to take it for us. So I imagine it would not be a problem. One cost that I know of, at least, would be that would probably want to put a deer fence around this. So I looked up the cost of a deer fence, and the least expensive is $20 for a roll of 100 feet. So I don't think that we would be doing too much more than that. We could, fencing could be as inexpensive or as expensive as you want to make it. But for the minimum, we would need, say, like $100. But we could raise that through the fees, that if we charge people fees to have a garden, or maybe through just donations. As far as Sustainable Jersey goes, Sustainable Jersey gives credit to towns if the garden is on community property and the town does help out in some way. So, however Milltown could help out, I'm sure we'd be happy to have.
Oh, when you say help out, is that providing the land or providing upkeep to the gardens, or?
It said on land that is municipally owned and maintained. So that wouldn't mean that you really would be maintaining it. But Milltown already maintains what's not there. Milltown does mow the grass there. And
so my question is twofold. First, about the community garden, because I've heard that it proposed for other spots as well. So the first thing is, the interest in the community garden. And then the second question is then what's the optimal place for it, right?
Right.
So the first question I have about the community garden is, how big are you going? Do you want to open it up to? Are you going to limit the people, or are you going to try and open it up to, who wants to do it? Because I think that would impact what size space that you would need. Are you
Right.
going to have 30 people versus 50 versus 100? Well,
Yeah.
How are you going to manage to try and gauge interest on the initial plots that people would want?
Right. So we have to kind of advertise this. If it becomes a reality, we would advertise it, and then we'd have a committee who tries to plan out how many spots we think is reasonable. And then that many spots would be up for grabs. And what I've seen in other towns is really it's the first people who apply, who want to be in it and get set up. They were the ones who have it. Say we have 30 spots. It would be the first 30 people.
You limit it. Okay. So,
but we would open it up for anybody in town. That's the hope, is that we have as many people as possible participate in this.
So Barbara, the other question is, is anybody still using the one that the school built over at JK, or is that?
Yes. Yes. Okay. I wrote to, the school is using it.
Okay.
And, with the schools being on their home and, in and out with their COVID restrictions, right. It hasn't gotten started this year, but I wrote to the teacher, Mr. Eckert, who is the manager of it. He's been the manager for the past couple of years. But I took it over last year because the schools weren't in it all.
Right.
But yeah, he said he has put in they just came up with the stipend and the job listing to manage the garden for this summer. And he said he put in to do it, but he hasn't heard back yet. So we think it'll be Mr. Eckert.
Gotcha.
But yes, that will be for the students to use.
Okay. I'll open it up to council. Any questions, comments?
Mrs. Wright, I would really like to see alternative locations.
Okay. Well, so it should be a Milltown. It said Milltown owned, managed, and maintained. I'm looking at my words. Municipally supported, municipally controlled, and maintained property. So I don't know of other spots that would have, parking in Wooder, and so, but I'm up for listening.
Okay, I'm just not sure that particular place may work in the future for what you want to do. So I'm just hoping that maybe someone can come up with a alternative location so that we can get this done for you.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, I had a couple questions for you. First of all, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Since we serve on some committees together, I'm aware of how hard you've been working on this. Do you recall how much the garden that you were able to work on this summer produced in terms of donations to community food banks and things like that?
Yes.
I heard it was in the hundreds of pounds of produce.
Yeah, the school garden, I was able to get 300 pounds of produce.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. So thank you for doing that. When there's a cost involved, did you have something in mind to sort of process that? Like, where would the money, if someone applies to get where does that all process through? The applications, the funds, and so forth?
I don't know. I have never done anything like that. I would talk to other towns who have done this, because I haven't done that yet. I haven't spoken to East Brunswick. I know that most of the other towns in the area do have community gardens. And so I would just find out from them. I bet the Rutgers Master Gardeners would be able to put me in touch with other towns who do that and how they manage their finances.
I think that would be some good questions to ask and figure out how feasible and who has to be involved and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much.
All right.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
You said roughly 10 by 10 plots, and you were saying...
That's what I've seen other towns do, a 10 by 10 plot.
Okay, so 10 by 10 plots, and you said about 30?
Yeah.
All right, so that's about 3,000 square feet. Now, how would you section off these 10 by 10 plots? How would one person know what their plot is versus another person's?
I would think that you mark them off with, say, chalk or spray. I don't know if there's like a spray paint. You have them marked off in the beginning, and the people come, and they would probably put something down to delineate their plot from the plot next door. I did, but that once you got your spot, everybody kind of knows that. I've seen overhead pictures of other community gardens, and it just seems like you have your spot, you plant it. I left like 3 feet of space in between them too. I was looking to see if I drew another map. I know I did, but kind of just showing the things. I don't know where it is.
How many spaces does East Brunswick have,
They have 100.
Okay.
And they might have doubled it. They started with 100, I think. And they've had their community garden for over 10 years. Duke Farms has, I just was looking on their website, they have 460 spots. And I think it's the largest community garden in the country. But we are Duke Farms for sure.
Barbara, I guess back to my question.
Sure.
So 10 by 10 plots, if you did 30, that's 3,000 square foot of gardening space. But that would assume that there would be 15 on one side and 15 on the other, because you have to have access to get to the plots to get inside.
Yeah, I'm going to hold this up. It's not the really fancy way of showing it. This is what I drew. I did about 20 spots that I colored in. These are actually 9 by 9, so it's a little bit smaller. but I did 9 by 9 with 3 feet in between each plot. And then there's nine more over here, which is closer to the fire barn, I'll call it, the firehouse barn. So I went the first bunch are right behind the museum, and then the next 3 are inching into the, say, 30 feet into the parking lot. So, but I did draw out 9 by 9 with 3 feet distance, so that was 12. Say
Okay,
12
so
by 12.
I guess my point in that, so then it actually, the square footage increases, right? It would increase.
Because I put aisles in, yeah.
Yes, of course, but of course you'd have to. Right?
Yeah.
And then you're always limited to that 30 and you can't, there's nowhere to grow, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
limited.
The question is there another space of land that might have more room to, because if it turns out to be successful, then you'd want to offer it to more people going forward.
My first thought of that something that was owned by Milltown, I think is not good, was down the park. I think is it Brook Park down at the end of Ford Avenue, where we have our mulch pile, and then there's that park along the Sucker Brook.
Yeah.
It's all grown up with Phragmites, which is like a reedy plant that's kind of. And I thought maybe that's nice and big, but it's really, really swampy. Because I did go check that out. We've been thinking about it.
I thought I heard somebody talk about the area where
behind the
old ice cream depot, which is
is that municipally owned?
There really isn't. I had checked that out too. So the trees are there, right? We have the big tree, the area with 60 trees, and there's a butterfly garden in the middle. Towards the electrical station side, there was a small area, but it's way smaller than what we have at the Historical Society. Because I've been looking.
Okay, all right. Well, that's part of what the committee and folks can talk about going forward. Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I guess the only other thing that I would say is that we should probably run any assistance by Public Works through our Public Works Director, because his cup runneth over as it is. So I would not choose to commit any more work to him unless he thinks that he can either do it or have it scheduled to be done.
Yeah. I'm not looking to him to do any work on the property. I figure that will be the work of the gardening committee.
Yes.
I mean, just trash removal, which he already does.
Okay.
So is this going to be a sub team of the green team? That was going to be my question.
That was going to be my question too.
So is it something that the green team can tackle along with volunteers, or are you looking to make a whole separate committee for this?
I think I'll make a separate committee.
That reports back to the green team?
What's that? The green team is very small.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, just to do the, spaces and things like that, because the green team then is advisory to the mayor and council. So, but that was the question is, like, if you're looking for folks to get involved to help and things like that, you could do that as a separate community garden committee that could then go report to the green team that could then, follow up with us.
Yeah.
We could definitely have it be part, because if we get the volunteers that would be starting this committee, we could also just have them, like, you're a volunteer for the green team. They could also just volunteer with the green team. And Michael, I know that you might be here for something else, but would we be able to do a subcommittee on the green team so that we don't have to make we don't have to reinvent the wheel and make a whole new?
Yeah, I think we could. And I believe and I agree with Barbara that it's within the green team's jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you'll get credits for having for the sustainable jersey, which would be good.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. And I mean, appreciate it, Barbara. You did a great job and you're enthusiastic. My only thing is I hope that, you do some sort of survey to really get people's input, to find out it could be many more people that might be interested or maybe not. So that's the first step to see. And one other question I had, just because I'm not really knowledgeable about that, what happens when somebody isn't keeping up their part? What do you do when the weeds start to get into everybody else's stuff?
I did read up on that. And what East Brunswick would do was you forfeit your spot if you leave it and for a couple weeks it starts getting really weedy, and then they'll give you a little break, and then if it's 2 weeks after that and you haven't shown up and taken care of anything, you forfeited your spot and it gets plowed under and given to somebody else.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like there's sort of an agreement process and there's going to have to be like a sheriff to police it a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm hoping it'll be a committee, not just one person.
Right. Oh, you see how that works. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we will move on to ordinance public hearing. The public hearing for ordinance 21-1495, an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Milltown, Chapter 29, Stormwater Management, Article 1, Stormwater Management and Control. Introduction of the ordinance were posted on the Borough website, on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, and are available at Borough Hall. So I will ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing on ordinance 21-1495.
Madam Mayor, before you take that motion and second, if I could just step in for half a second.
Yes, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
No problem, ma'am. Just as you may recall, when we were adopting this ordinance on first reading, there was some input from the Environmental Commission that was provided to the mayor and council and to the borough engineer regarding their thoughts on the ordinance, which the borough did adopt on first reading. Also, if you may recall, the mayor and council put off the second reading of this ordinance for 4 weeks instead of 2, so that we could refer it to the Middlesex County to get their comments on the ordinance. We did have a meeting with the Environmental Commission with representatives, and we did receive their input and their comments. And as a result of that, the borough engineer is undertaking a review of those comments to see what their thoughts and recommendations would be. As you may recall, in addition to all of that, there is a deadline from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and they would like to see our model ordinance in place by March 1st. We're obviously past March 1st. So at present, we do not have comments from Middlesex County, and we have not had an opportunity to fully vet the comments from the Environmental Commission. All that being said, I've spoken with Mr. Shirkagian and explained to him that my recommendation for the borough this evening is to move forward with the second reading of this ordinance. And then in the future, based upon CME's review of the comments received from the Environmental Commission, as well as any comments we might receive from the County of Middlesex, we could amend the ordinance at a later date, but this would allow us to have our new ordinance in place, comply with the requirements of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and then consider those other comments in due course.
Thank you for the excellent explanation. Thanks for being flexible with this. That sounds like a good compromise. So given our borough attorney's comments, do we have a motion?
Move to open the public hearing.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
I'll make a motion that the ordinance be adopted on second and final reading and be published according to law.
Nick, we have to have the public hearing first.
Oh, okay.
Randy did the motion for the public hearing. We just need a second.
Oh, second.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion by Council President Farkas, second by Councilman Legati. Mimi, do you need a roll or just a?
Oh, you can open it to the public hearing now.
Okay. So we will open it for public comments now. The public hearing on ordinance 21-1495 is now open to any member of the public who wishes to speak on this ordinance.
And Michael, I see that you have raised your hand to speak. So if you'll identify yourself for the record with your name and address.
Michael Shikarjan, 19 Yarnell Avenue, Chair of the Environmental Commission. I just want to thank the council for allowing us the opportunity to provide our suggestions with regard to this ordinance, and also to set up a meeting so that we could meet with the borough attorney and professionals. We're very appreciative of that, and we're very appreciative of the fact that the town is seriously considering our suggestions, and we remain available to have any discussions once the borough engineers have a chance to investigate our suggestions further. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any other comments from the public?
I don't see anyone with any hand raised. I think you're
seeing none. I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 21-1495.
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion to close the public hearing from Council President Farkas, second from Councilman Legati. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
motion carries to close the hearing.
So now I will ask for a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 21-1495.
Make a motion that the ordinance be adopted on second and final reading and be published according to law.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Legati, second by Council President Farkas. Any comments from the council? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Farkas.
Aye.
Councilman Legati.
Aye.
Councilwoman Neubauer.
Aye.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Aye.
Councilman Peretti.
Aye.
And Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
The ordinance passes for final adoption.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the certification of the 2019 audit. We were instructed as to the required review of the audit, and we must certify that review. May I have a motion to adopt resolution 78-2021?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Zambrana, second by Councilman Legati. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Farkas.
Aye.
Councilman Legati.
Aye.
Councilwoman Neubauer.
Aye.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Aye.
Councilman Peretti.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
Motion carries to certify the audit for 2019.
Thank you. We'll now go on to bills and claims. Will the clerk please read by title only the bill resolution 79-2021?
Resolution 79-2021 is authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown in the total amount of $3,480,761.68.
Heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Farkas, second by Councilwoman Neubauer. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Farkas.
Aye.
Councilman Legati.
Aye.
Councilwoman Neubauer.
Aye.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Aye.
Councilman Peretti.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana?
Aye.
Motion carries to pay the bills.
Thank you. Next, we will have comments from the audience on resolutions. The comments from the audience are on the agenda resolutions. If any member of the public wishes to speak on the resolutions, please identify yourself to the clerk and say your name and address for the record. These comments are limited to resolutions listed on the agenda.
I don't see anyone wishing to speak, and correct me if I'm wrong out there. But
I see Michael. I'm sorry, Mimi. I see Michael. I don't know if he just.
I think his hand is still raised from prior. So.
Michael, you want your hand? You can take your hand down if you want. Thank you. All right. So, seeing none, I will ask an all in favor vote to close the public audience portion of this session for resolutions. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we'll have the introduction of the resolutions. When voting on resolutions, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and having been reviewed by the Borough Council will be enacted by one motion. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and if so removed, will be treated as a separate matter. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds. Are there any questions, or does anyone have any resolution they'd want to pull from the consent agenda this evening? Okay, seeing no requests to pull any resolutions, will the clerk please read the consent resolution?
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting. And whereas the borough clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting, and now therefore and be it resolved by the mayor and borough council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the borough clerk be approved without the necessity of having the individual resolutions read by the borough clerk.
You've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
A motion by Council President Farkas, second by Councilwoman Neubauer. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
For the record, this is to approve resolutions 80, 2021 through 83, 2021. Council President Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Ligotti?
Aye.
Councilwoman Neubauer?
Aye.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Aye.
Councilman Peretti?
Aye.
And Councilman Zambrana?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we will move on to the reports. First, we have the Department of Finance, Administration, and Planning, Councilman Phil Zambrana.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a very short report tonight. We just finished certifying the 2019 annual audit. Just so that we're all and the public is aware, the audit was what we call a clean audit, which means there were no recommendations. So it's exactly the kind of audit that you want from any kind of municipality, whether it be Board of Education or Borough. Like to thank Jeanette Larison, our BA CFO, for all the hard work, making sure that went through smoothly. We continued our budget meetings. We're getting to the tail end. We have a couple of departments to go, moving forward on the 2021 budget. And again, I cautiously optimistic that in April, at some point, we will have a 2021 budget in place, and cautiously optimistic that hopefully by the end of June, July, we will have a 2020 audit up to date. And that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the Department of Public Safety, Councilman Nick Ligotti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Milltown Fire Department monthly report, February 2021. Drills, 3. Meetings, 2. Fire calls, 6. Work details, 4. Total incidents for the month, 15. Engine company was officially completely vacated. Hose company has some items that are being stored temporarily. garbage and identified as removed from both firehouses. Plan for antique fire truck garage will be submitted by the Milltown FD Inc. by March 5th. New firehouse is getting settled, kinks being worked out. Membership. Kevin Hall will join in March. He has criminal background check completed, was interviewed, and is going for physical. Kevin Hall was one of our consent resolutions was passed today. I'd just like to say congratulations to Mr. Hall. Welcome to the Milltown Fire Department. Training. Equipment review for all apparatus. Equipment is being stored between 4 apparatus and moved around for maximize effectiveness. Driver training, cross training is ongoing. Engineer Dan Null will be requalified on all apparatus. Vehicle maintenance. Car 83 had an oil change, tire rotation, and steering rack replaced due to leak. Ladder 73 will have turbo checked. Engine 62 has a leaking valve and will be checked. Car 81 and 82 are scheduled for maintenance. Equipment maintenance. Inventory was taken for all 4 apparatus. Clean air systems came to adjust ply movement system. Sorry if I said that wrong. Buildings and grounds. The Milltown Fire Department, Inc. ordered the Granite Monument Addition. Looks forward to coordinating with the borough for moving the current granite monument to the new monument area. Members are needed. Candidates interested in joining the Milltown Fire Department are encouraged to stop by the firehouse Monday nights at 6:30 or email joinmilltownfire@gmail.com. Respectfully submitted, Stephen Battaglia, Chief of the Milltown Fire Department. Milltown Police Department monthly report. Between December 16th, 2021 and February 28th, 2021, police have responded to 1,143 calls for service during this period. Police conducted 98 radar details in numerous locations. Police made 6 arrests, which include drug charges, false reports to police, domestic violence, theft, and driving while intoxicated. Police responded to 17 motor vehicle accidents during this time, which involved only minor injuries. The Milltown Police Department remains in compliance with all mandated training, testing, and directives set forth by the State of New Jersey Attorney General's Office and the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. We are in the process of updating several policies affected by recent changes in law, and we will train accordingly. The police has received complaints complaints of phone scams, which include scammers posing as utility companies and requesting money to avoid shutoffs. Do not give personal information or pay any monies to any callers without first validating legitimacy. The weather warms and schools slowly reopen. Please drive with caution as pedestrian traffic will increase. Please continue to report suspicious activity, traffic concerns, and non-emergent type calls to 732-828-1100. Police will determine the necessary response. Walk-in complaints are discouraged due to COVID-19 concerns and restrictions. Emergency and life-threatening calls use 911. Residents are reminded to report any concerns and/or complaints by using the official borough website or by calling the Milltown Police directly. The Milltown Police Department does not monitor and will not react, reply, or respond to comments or complaints posted on any third-party social media sites. Sincerely, Chief Brian Kennelly, Milltown Police Department. Madam Mayor, the only other thing I have left is that the Milltown Senior Center remains closed due to COVID-19. Hopefully in the near future, we can change that. The the Senior Center Director, Debbie Cuddy, has been getting increased calls about COVID-19 vaccinations. She has all the information to direct people to the proper state and county sites, state and county phone numbers, as she has been doing the last few weeks. Please call the Senior Center and Debbie Cuddy will be happy to advise or direct anyone who has concerns about the vaccine. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to the Department of Utilities, Council President Randy Farkas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll start off with the Milltown Electric Utility Report. The electrical substation was inspected daily throughout the month of February. General department safety and practical training. Training was provided for rope usage and knots required by linemen. Apprentice training in the field. Hooking and connecting a de-energized service drop to a structure. Repairing broken wires and installing new service drops. Our apprentice successfully obtained his CDL driver's license, so congratulations to him. For the substation, department members removed a sump pump in the transformer containment area to troubleshoot an oil leak detector that was in an alarm condition with no oil present in the sump. The sensor needed to be cleaned. Department members replaced a defective current monitor and the 4 kV switchgear, and general housekeeping was performed. Streetlight repairs. 1 Applewood Court, and that included some tree trimming. 16 Harkins Road, East Lincoln and Adam Place. East Lawrence and Columbia replaced an old fixture with a new LED unit. Ford Avenue at the Box Factory and 76 Ford Avenue replaced an old fixture with a new LED unit. Under line work, blown service drop replaced at 159 Riva Avenue. Miscellaneous electric meters replaced for the billing department. Miscellaneous tree work was performed where distribution and service drops had tree interference. Snow removal. Department members participated in snow removal for 2 snowstorms, included clearing out our stations, borough parking lots, and street work. Trucks and equipment. A broken hydraulic part was replaced on our digger derrick truck. Inventory and stock. As the process of moving materials from the old garage progresses, we are evaluating our current inventory and restocking items, as well as purchasing materials for projects planned in 2021. And that concludes the electrical report. And now I have a report for the water sewer department. Along with all miscellaneous work orders, barkouts, and rereads, the department has the following report. Pump number 1 has been rebuilt and reinstalled at Church Street Pump. Water meter replacement will continue as manpower and time allows. The water seal unit has been repaired and is up and working for the large pumps. The lead notices have been mailed out to addresses that are tested, and the notice was mailed out to the town as per DEP regulations. Utility department assisted DPW with snow removal during the February storms. Supervisor of the water department has been moved to 50 Washington Avenue along with the DPW. And as always, please check channel 15 and milltownnj.org for water sewer updates. And lastly, Madam Mayor, I'd like to call for a utility committee meeting. If everyone is okay with it, I'd like to have that meeting next Wednesday, March 17th. Please let me know if you are able to attend. Mike, if that's okay with you, and Jeanette, if that works for you, just let me know. And if we have to move the date, we will. But that's the day I'd like to have it. And that concludes my report for tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the Department of Public Works and Recycling, Councilwoman Anna Neubauer.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you. For tonight, we have for the DPW report, along with all curbside collections, the DPW has the following. DPW has been busy salting and clearing snow that has occurred over the past few weeks. Corners continue to be cleared as melting continues, and catch basins have been cleared to help with drainage and to keep flooding under control. Pothole repair has taken place on Washington Avenue, Riva Avenue, Ackerman Avenue, and numerous other locations. This will be ongoing as weather permits. Sign repair has taken place and will be ongoing as manpower allows. The DPW staff have also been busy moving zoning, construction, code enforcement, and DPW directors' offices to 50 Washington Avenue. As a reminder, as spring cleanups begin, all garden waste must be in cans to be collected. No plastic bags containing grass, leaves, or brush will be picked up. Please check Channel 15 and milltownnj.org for DPW updates. Otherwise, the Green Team has a meeting in 2 days on the 10th. If anyone would like to attend, I know that I'm assuming that we'll be talking about the community garden that we also talked about tonight. And that's all I have to report tonight.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to the Department of Environmental Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Margaret O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm very excited to report that the library has reopened limited hours, but they are reopened for browsing from 10 to 4 Mondays through Friday. The very popular story time for the kids is taking place 3 times a week, but that remains on Zoom. You can expect to hear a lot more about the outdoor space near the library since we can't spend as much time inside. There's a focus on the garden areas that are outside. There will definitely be more to come on that. The next meeting for the library will be tomorrow night, March 9th at 7:30, always the second Tuesdays. I was invited to the United Way Women Unite virtual breakfast, and we'll attend that on behalf of the borough on March 23rd in the morning, on March 23rd in the evening, because I can't get enough of meetings. There will be a Board of Health meeting. There was no meeting to report anything on from the month of February. That is always the 4th Tuesdays at 7:30. The Environmental Commission had a number of items on the agenda. We talked about what we still refer to as the Schwendeman property, a number of planning zoning board items with environmental interests, obviously the stormwater ordinance, and I do thank the commission for their feedback to the borough on that. That there are lead testing kits available. There was a discussion about the butterfly garden on Mill Pond Park. I'll bring a little bit more information to you about that during new business. Those meetings are the 4th Wednesdays at 7:30 if anyone would like to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have the Department of Recreation, Councilman James Peretti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for SAC, we'd like to take this opportunity to update the community regarding Milltown school year SAC. At this time, based on the Board of Education's decision to remain on a 4-day per week with half-day dismissal schedule for mid-March and April, Milltown's school year SAC program will not be reopening for the 2020 through 2021 school year. We will, however, be concentrating on the summer SAC program. In the near future, we will be presenting a community survey to assess the need for summer childcare. We will announce when the survey will be available to parents on our website and encourage you to go on and fill out that survey. Thank you again for your continued support and patience through these unprecedented times. We're looking forward to welcoming you and your children back to the SAC program. Now for recreation. We have received many applications for summer employment. We will be contacting all applicants over the next several weeks to set up interviews. If you have previously worked for the borough and have applied for the same position, you will not be contacted for an interview. We will contact you once council approves staff for employment. Spring soccer and yoga classes, both youth and adult, and all youth sports clinics, registration are now open online. Please go to the website under the Recreation Department, under programs to register. The Spring Tennis Foundation A and Foundation B are both filled and closed at this time. Thank you for the great response. There are still openings for tennis squirts. which are ages 3 through 5, and Foundation C, ages 11 through 14. We will be posting details at a later time regarding Fundamental Forest T-Ball, which we are anticipating a May start. We will send a newsflash in Nixle once registration opens. Please note that we are still accepting non-perishable food donations for our Milltown neighbors in need, as well as for the Middlesex County Food Bank, which also supports Milltown residents. You may drop items off at Borough Hall and place them in the green bins in the hallway of the main entrance during normal business hours. Please remember masks are required to enter the building. Please do not leave food in the public entrance vestibule. And that concludes the recreation report. I do have a couple committee reports that I wanted to share. First, I'll start with the Human Relations Committee that met on March 2nd. Just a quick going over the minutes. We started to formalize some of our meeting cadences and some meeting rules to be more inclusive of our committee members as well as the community as a whole. We had a great presentation about some future goals and objectives that we're still developing. You'll see some of these in the minutes that will hopefully soon can find a place in the agenda and minutes folder located on the Borough website. They're not there yet, but they will be there. We also went over some community relations as well as some upcoming possible activities and projects, which are some takeaways for our committee members. And we did spend a fair amount of time on our training programs, looking to kind of foster a training program, free training programs, not only for our committee members, but can soon be offered to possibly the council, possibly the community at large. So some really interesting resources coming out of that from a lot of committee members, coming from their private and public lives that have a lot of good resources at hand. And finally, we did have some new business being discussed, particularly about a outstanding National Honor Society presentation that was unfortunately never given last year to the Borough Council in regards to Bataan Avenue. And the HRC is working with the school to try to have that presentation be picked back up again, that we can schedule it for a future meeting for the council and have either the original students or the new National Honor students, Honor Society students pick that up and present those findings to us. And also we had, but since the last council meeting, the Milltown Historic Preservation Committee met. And again, a brief summary of the minutes. We went over a soon-to-be presentation that the Preservation Committee will be presenting to the Borough Council at our last March meeting. I will be working with Mimi to get that on the agenda and make sure we have all the materials in place. Randy Ruth mentioned that, something to the effect of that at our last Borough Council meeting for those who remember. We also talked about a couple to-do list items for the Preservation Committee, some of our updates on our historic buildings inside the town, and what are the latest updates on said projects. We also discussed a lot about community feedback and how to develop a proper survey to get the proper community feedback back on what historic preservation means to Milltown and how the Preservation Committee can help serve the community of Milltown at large. And some updates again for some grant statuses, nothing to share with the council at this moment, but some work in progress still on some various grants and funding. And we did have some new business in the Preservation Committee, which we discussed about a possible scout project. We're most likely going to be, that individual is probably going to be working with the Milltown Historic Society because they align a little bit more closely with this Eagle Scout project. But again, looking forward to working with them as well as any other scouts because looking for Eagle projects, because the Preservation Committee does have some exciting ideas that could be used for Eagle Scout projects. So if there's anyone in the community who's looking for opportunities and ideas for the Eagle Scout project, I encourage them to contact Randy Ruth at the Preservation Committee or come to our next committee meeting on March 25th at 6:30. And that concludes all my reports.
Great. Thank you, James. Now we'll move on to our administrator report, Jeanette Larison.
So as per usual, Mayor, I have no report. It's you hear it through everyone else's report, my report.
That's good. Thank you. Our engineer,
Yes.
Mr. McClellan, how are you?
Yes, man, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Just a few items tonight. I'll go through them very quickly. First item is work on Tracy Drive has resumed. We're pleased to report. The remaining work includes storm sewer, reconstruction, under drain installation, curb, sidewalk, ramp improvements in the milling and resurfacing of the roadway. We'll keep you advised as the days go on of the status, and obviously we're advising the residents also. Soil borings were completed at Gloria Bradford Park, and we're forwarding the results to Musco, who's one of the companies on the what's basically a corrosion. I'm sorry, they're on one of those cooperative contracts. Forgive me. Lastly, we have review of the tax maps. We're pleased has been completed with Mod 4, and they're being sent to the state this week. And that's all we have for you tonight.
Thank you. But does anybody have any questions?
A quick question.
Sure.
Mike, is there any work taking place on Lonnie Lane, or is that a staging area?
I think they're using that for storage of their equipment now, Morgan. We'll check it out, though, but no work on Lonnie Lane now.
Okay, thank you. A resident asked me over the weekend.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I have one question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you said the tax maps, Mod 4 was completed and sent to the state?
Yeah, what happens is when you complete the tax maps, there's a comparison between the tax maps and the Mod 4, which is the state and the county's record book. That's taken a considerable amount of time because of the fact that the tax maps have been really so old. So that comparison now is completed so that when you go to the tax maps, you get the same information you get on the Mod 4. And now that that's been completed, we're going to send the maps to the state. Then the state begins their review, comparison to the state regulation of tax maps. And then with that, we'll get a response, maybe some comments, and then hopefully we'll get the tax map certified.
Do you anticipate, or you have any idea like what the turnaround time is for that?
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's very quick, depending on the workload down in Trenton. That's we've seen it done in probably 2 to 4 months, and other times it's taken longer. But I think because of the workload, I think is a little lighter down there. I think we'll hopefully get it through very quickly. We'll keep it posted.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Next, we'll move on to our Borough Attorney report, Mr. Peter Vignolo.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, so it's my comments. I will keep it quick as we're getting late, but I just wanted to point out how refreshing and nice it is to see presentations, to hear how so many residents are involved in committees and initiatives, and it's been really nice to see how many folks are pulling together for the betterment of the Borough of Milltown. And I would encourage everyone who isn't part of a committee to feel free to join, go on the website, look at when the committees and commissions meet, because the more input that they get and the more that we can engage and really come to a good outcome for the borough. And it was also nice to hear how a lot of the groups are looking for feedback. So it's refreshing and really nice. And I thank the committees and all of the chairs and all of the council members who attend all these committees for keeping us informed and looking forward to all the good things that will come out of those groups. With that, I will move on to old business. Does any member of the council have any old business they'd like to bring before us this evening? Being none, I will move on to new business. Does any member of the council have any new business they would like to bring before the council?
I do.
Okay, thanks, Margaret.
I have two very quick items. One, I wanted to mention that there is a presentation forthcoming on at our March 22nd meeting by Sally Sharp, who's a member of the Environmental Commission, and she'll be talking about cleaning up the area of the Mill Pond Park that is referred to as like the butterfly garden or the pollinator garden. And she'll be requesting some borough resources, not funding, but some assistance along the lines of what we were speaking of earlier with some, cleaning up, taking away of brush, anything that's pulled out, and also requesting, I don't know if it's officially a park reservation, but to reserve those dates for these projects. They will be smaller in nature than others have been in the past because obviously we're trying to do some distancing. But the other thing is that they're trying to maintain the pollinator plants that are there. It's not like a really broad brush, pull everything that's there out. So it has to be kind of finessed work with people who are kind of, knowledgeable about it. But you'll hear more about that on the 22nd, but I wanted to bring it to the council's attention because there are some resources, especially of our DPW, that will be requested. And the other item also comes out of our Environmental Commission, and it is about potentially applying for a grant for electric vehicle charging stations. It does not have a financial match, so that's not requesting funds, but obviously it needs a place. So we don't have a lot of detail on that yet, but apparently when these come out, it's a very quick turnaround time. So I wanted to bring it to council's attention now that this is something that the Environmental Commission is hoping to pursue, and perhaps we can lay some groundwork of looking at potential locations, even though we don't have a lot of detail, but just try to do as much as we think we can in anticipation of this grant being announced. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. Anyone
Madam
else?
Mayor, I was
Yes.
just, I'm sorry if Councilman Peretti, did we go over the signs that are going to be put in Borough Park this week?
No, I can mention that right now, actually, though.
I have the flyer in front of me. Would you like me to just to read?
Sure. I know we mentioned it at some of the previous meetings with the presentation, but you're right. Let's bring it up one more time. You have it on hand. You can take it away.
All right. Just so the residents are aware, in Borough Park and Gloria Bradford Borough Park, we're going to have this week signs, and they're going to be from the Family Advocate Care Experience for Seniors. And it's a group of 1,000 families and members and residents of long-term care facilities and communities in New Jersey, announcing the events or announcing the life-threatening effects of isolation and demanding visitations for New Jersey Department of Health to allow safe and in-room caregiving visits to family members. Milltown was one of 4 towns across New Jersey that was chosen to display these signs, where they will end up in Trenton, I think at the end of the week. So it should be exciting. Just don't want the residents to not know it's coming. There'll be about 300 signs or so displayed in Milltown. All will have names of seniors who are in long-term care facilities. And I think it's a great thing. I think the Boy Scouts are going to help us set up the signs. They're also going to help remove the signs. I think we'll have some volunteers out there as well to help put them up and take them out. So if you can, it's a really good cause. If you could just, take a walk by or take a ride by and look at the signs and support the long-term care facilities and the effects that COVID-19 have had on these people, it's a really good thing. I'm glad Milltown got picked to do this.
No, Nick, thanks for bringing that up. One of whom is our former mayor, Bradford. So that's a nice thing, and we appreciate the scouts and everyone who's helping to get that set up. Thanks for bringing it up. Anyone else? Okay, then we will move on to the audience comment portion of our meeting. The public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. The council will respect the public's time by refraining from any comment until the speaker has finished. It should be further noted that public comment is not structured as a question and answer session. If a member of the public has any questions, an appointment can be made with the appropriate office during regular business hours or with a member of council. Please state your name and address for the record, and the clerk will acknowledge you. I see we have
Randy Ruth, can I acknowledge you to speak during the public session?
Yes, Randy Ruth, 88 Clay Street. Just wanted to make a comment that I think the Borough Firehouse is on South, or the Borough Firehouse on South Main. It seems like there's a hasty removal of not only the items within the building, but learning that the monument outside is going somewhere. I don't know where that somewhere is, but I don't know. I'm a little distraught by it, and I would just hope that the borough is as transparent as possible with the residents of Milltown with what's going on with the property, and that's all.
So I will just say that I wonder about hasty. It's this, obviously the moving has been planned with the full cooperation of the fire department for quite some time, but of course we will be as transparent as possible. So I think a lot of the moving of the monument and other things have been planned for quite some time.
The entire project, Madam Mayor.
May I ask?
Sure, go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I'm just curious, just to throw it out there, what is the plan for the building and the property in which that building rests? Within the, say, next 3 years, there's got to be a plan. I mean, if it's... I'll take this. So my comment to that was that it's been, Randy, Nick, you were around, what was it, but it was before I even got elected to council, 2016, something like that, when the plan was developed to move to the new facility, right? So my question was, how do you build a new mansion and not have any idea what you're doing with your old house? However, I think the understanding was that the old house was going to be part of that. As far as I'm concerned, and I recall being on the council, that the former mayor said that the new facility was going to be a big expense, and part of the expectation was the borough would see what they could do with the old facility. So, and we've mentioned this with the fire department, and that they seem fine with it, that they really wanted the new facility. And so now it's up, and they've really just moved out, I believe at the end of February. So now it's up to the borough to see, what condition the buildings are in. We have to do an appraisal, see how it stands. I mean, I'm not sure. I've heard various reports of the condition of certainly the South Main Street one. So it's something that the borough has to, now that all the stuff is moved out just in the last few weeks, to go in and take a look and see what condition it's in.
Madam Mayor, I have to add in the aspect of transparency, since day one that this project was brought out to not only council, but to the people of Milltown, old administration, new administration, whatever it was sold to the people of Milltown and council that both firehouses would be sold to recoup some of the costs involved in the new firehouse. That has been publicly stated in, I can say, several council meetings over the course of the last 2 years. So it's not being hidden. It's not being not proposed. That was the plan. I've made every decision on that firehouse based on that information, that both of those firehouses would be sold to recoup some of the cost. That was not hidden from anyone. That has been announced over the last 2.5 years. So that was the plan, and that's how it was proposed to everyone, not only council, but the people of Milltown.
now that being said, if someone wants to take it and preserve it, that's totally fine. But it's something that the borough is going to do our due diligence to have it appraised and looked at and see where we go from there. It's a process that we're just going to begin. So it's not nothing has been set up yet, because it's literally 2 weeks from the firehouse finally vacating all of the properties, right, Nick?
That is absolutely correct. And it also, this plan also included moving that monument over, because the new firehouse has a specific place for those monuments to be moved over. So that was included in the original plan as well. That has been from the get-go. That is not a surprise to anyone.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Randy. Any other comments?
Dawn Milburn, I'll recognize her to speak. And can you give me your address for the record, Dawn?
Sure. 12 Desmond Avenue, Milltown, New Jersey. Hi.
Hi, Dawn.
I had a few questions and a comment. I was thinking about those Manhattan Five, those architects. They're so famous in New York, and I was hoping that maybe in Milltown we have the Milltown Five wealthy developers or people who really would love to see that firehouse preserved. Because to me personally, I don't know how any of you feel, but I think our South Side Firehouse is one of the most charming firehouses I've ever seen anywhere. So I'm just hoping maybe before we make plans to put it on the market or whatever the plans were, that maybe there's some way that maybe somebody's even listening tonight and they know some investors. Maybe there are 5 investors in Milltown who would love to see this firehouse preserved. That would be wonderful. And also, I just want to remind you, I was not aware that Milltown bought into the entire idea of selling the firehouses. But I also want to remind you that also many people in Milltown were also not aware that after they voted down the new firehouse, that it would be brought to the borough and it would be passed. So, and I'm not one of those people I'm not saying that I'm personally against a new firehouse. I don't have an opinion about that. But let's remember that if we're going to use that as a reason for why we're selling those 2 firehouses, there are many people in this town that will say to you that they were not aware that after voting down the new firehouse, that it would be passed by this borough council. So I can't help but to think of that. And then I had a question about the gardens. I was just curious, when we were talking about the gardens in the Historical Society that Mrs. Wright brought up, the land that she was talking about was actually, I thought that land that she plotted was on the grounds of the Historical Society. So I was wondering why that was a problem, because in looking around town and trying to find spots, we have to remember we have to have a water source. Historical Society has a water source. We also have to test the soils, like at the schools, the problems we had were that because there was some level of lead or acetane in the soil, we had to plant raised beds. So it's not just a matter of finding a big piece of land and saying, oh, yeah, let's go grab that. It has to have a water source and we have to test the soils. And my question is, why was that an issue of putting the garden by the Historical Society since it was on their property?
So that's borough property, right? Because it needs to be on borough property. And I don't think it was a problem. I think it was just like, well, let's wait and see. Let's look at all the options and see where the optimal place is. That's one choice, but maybe there's others that are better, that have more space. Each one could have.
Sure. I just thought that maybe when Mr. Legati seemed concerned about that one, he seemed concerned about that one location. That's why I'm asking that question.
Oh, sorry.
I was concerned about that one location due to the fact that you don't know what's going to happen to the firehouse that's on that property. So access to the garden, you know, whether it goes one way or the other, we don't know yet. So if you're going to put something there and you don't know what's going to happen with that firehouse or with that property, now access just became a little bit harder to get to, or to parking, whatever, you know, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
All I was asking for is maybe we can have a couple of other options for locations. You know, personally, I would love to see it get done. I don't really care where it gets done. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great thing to do, but I'm just worried about access to it once we figure out what's going on with that Main Street firehouse. You know, do you want to get caught where you're pigeonholed into, now what are you going to do? Now you got to have a different plan because you can't get to it the way you need to get to it.
Well,
That's just my concern.
Yeah, but if you're going to have, obviously, if you have access to the Historical Society, then you're not going to need any more access for getting into park for the Historical Society than you would be to have, you know, a gardener just pull up with their car with some tools. That's why I was a little confused by that. Unless you're thinking about
that's
if that Historical Society land is tied in with, is that Historical Society land, any of it that Barbara was talking about, connected to the property that's part of the firehouse that you're thinking might go away?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that, but, you know, based on what was presented tonight, it kind of sounded like, you know, it wasn't only behind the Historical Society, but some of it was moving over towards behind the old fire museum, which probably is on the firehouse property.
Okay.
Plus the fact that I don't know, you're talking about 3,000 square feet or more or less, or whatever the case may be. I don't think you're going to have one person coming at a time. Now you're going to have, now it's hard to get to.
I don't know. I guess because I actually helped build the school gardens, and I will tell you, you're not going to have a lot of cars at one time. And I got the sense from the green team when Barbara spoke to us that there's flexibility with that. I mean, if that plot that she proposed is too big, I'm sure they would adjust that. And remember, the other key to why it was a good location was there are actually members in the Historical Society, including Mrs. Wright, who are master gardeners. So it just kind of made sense to have master gardeners who happen also to be in the Historical Society there to tend and to kind of supervise it. And wouldn't it be nice to see if more Milltowners would come to the Historical Society? So when you're bringing the gardens and the Historical Societies together, you want to bring some attention to those places, and it might build more interest in one or the other. So that's why
hopefully that's something the committee that is talking about the gardens will bring forth and advise about.
Okay.
It also makes sense to have options, you know, was my point.
Sure. I hope you can find them. It's really tricky. Okay, thank you. Good night.
Oh, thanks, Dawn. Just to follow up, I will say that, Nick, and you can tell me very shortly, we will be videotaping, since we can't have an open house for the new facility, which actually ties into the conversation that we're having now. We're going to be doing a virtual tour of the new firehouse, and then shortly thereafter, we will have a virtual tour of the new DPW. But I hope that shows the community, how all of the fire department's needs are being met at the new facility and with the DPW. And it's been a big project. It's something that, has been at a large cost to the taxpayer. So we obviously have to be cognizant of the taxpayers when we move forward with other decisions as well.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We initially had March 18th scheduled for doing the videotaping of the virtual tour. Since then, it has changed. We have now moved that date up, so it'll come out even faster. So it'll be on the 11th. So 11th at 7 o'clock, we're going to do our virtual tour. And then as soon as I've contacted Russ, the 3 fire chiefs, myself, we'll put something together and hopefully get it out there on the website, Channel 15, wherever else we can get it, out there for people to view. So on March 11th, we're hoping to get that, at least get the videotaping part completed. Russ will have to do some editing and we'll be good to go sooner rather than later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I believe I have another resident who'd like to speak. Barbara Wright, can I acknowledge you to give your name and address for the record?
Yes, I'm Barbara Wright. I live at 38 Harrison Avenue, and I'm wearing my Historical Society president hat now. And I don't know if you've all noticed, but we were able to get the front porch on the Milltown Museum re-roofed this week, which is very exciting for us. It's been a while in coming. I know Steve Regis used to always come and ask for money to get it done, but we finally dipped into our own coffers and got that roof fixed before there was any further damage to the building. And speaking of that, we're having a fundraiser on March 20th that I just thought people of Milltown should know about. It's going to be through Pino's Palette, and it's a Zoom painting party. So I just wanted to put that out there. If anybody's interested, we need at least 20 people to come in order to make it a fundraiser for the Historical Society. So if anybody's interested, we've put it on Facebook, the advertisement. I'm not sure. I guess there's signs around town you might see. And I encourage anybody who would like to sign up and help us raise some money to keep our buildings going. And thank you all for listening to the garden presentation and for supporting the Milltown Historical Society and for your nice comments, Trina, about participation. That there are a lot of people in town who are getting involved, and it's good.
Refreshing. Yes, it's very nice. Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it.
That's all.
Anyone else?
I don't see anyone else, Mayor Track.
Okay. Seeing that no one else wishes to speak, I lost my place. I'm sorry. So
just at the top of page 7.
Oh yeah, okay. So seeing, I will ask for a motion to close the public audience session. And now I will. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, it doesn't seem right, but whatever. I'm following the script. So now we will entertain executive session, correct?
Madam Mayor, this will be an executive session to discuss litigation. There'll be no action taken following the executive session.
Okay. So may I ask for a motion and a second to adopt resolution 084-2021 to move into executive session?
Make a motion.
Resolution be adopted.
Second.
All right. That was Councilman Legotti's made a motion, and who was the other person? I don't. Randy, was that you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Council President Park is second. So now we will break out into an executive session.
I need to do a roll call on that resolution.
Sorry, go ahead.
Council President Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Legotti?
Aye.
Councilwoman Neubauer?
Aye.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Aye.
Councilman Peretti?
Aye.
And Councilman Zambrana?
Aye.
All right, resolution 84, 2021 carries to go to executive session, and we will break out to a breakout room, so be patient. I'll assign you over there, and then anyone who would like to remain in the main room may feel free. We'll be back there before we adjourn for the evening. Hold on one second.
Thanks, everyone.